Greetings of the day, everyone. My name is Sanjaana Mitra, and today with me is my dear friend Rohit Chowdhury. And we just came back from the IIHM UK Wine and Malt Education Tour 2023, and we'd love to share our experiences with you. So, Rohit, can you just start off by talking about the first day?
Yeah, sure. So, on the first day, we took a flight from Kolkata to London, and it was a very good experience. We throughout our flight journey, we got to bond with the other students of the campus. It was nerve-wracking in the beginning, but as we bonded, we got to know that how excited we are for all of us for this tour. We landed in London, took a bus to Ashford, and met with our mentor, Mr. Keith Edgar. From there, we went to a local pub for a dinner, and from the next day, our wine tour journey was about to begin. And I would like you to talk about it.
Yeah. So on the next day, which was when we kick-started off the tour for the different vineyards, we visited Oxney Organic Estate. It's a small estate which actually they follow organic and sustainable methods of cultivating their wines, and it was such a beautiful place to see because the owner itself was the guide for the entire tour, and she had this really nice personality to her, and it gave the entire tour a more personal touch. And we tried many different sparkling wines and still wines from them, and just after that we went on to the next vineyard, which was Chapel Down, which was much larger compared to the first one. Oxney was much smaller, and Chapel Down was almost 500 acres large, and they had so many different grape varieties, so many different styles of sparkling wines, and it was just a wonderful experience. And even on the next day as well, we visited Balfour.
Yes. It was one of the largest competitors of Chapel Down, as they had almost 400 acres of land under vines. And it was very interesting to know that the area where Balfour actually started cultivating their wines was actually an apple farm just before, but it became very unsuitable for cultivating any other crop other than vines. And from Balfour, one of the major learnings we learned was a microclimate within a microclimate, because the weather was very cloudy, and I told the guide that it might rain, so we didn't bring our rain jackets, and she was very confident and said that it will not rain because there's a microclimate within a microclimate.
Yeah, the forest that was there.
Yes,
yeah.
So it basically means that the vines, all the cultivation, all the land, it's enclosed within a forest, and then the forest is enclosed within another forest. So that way, the trees prevent the rain clouds to come in and destroy the vines. And from Balfour, we proceeded on to Simpson's Wine Estate. It was a medium produce wine estate. It was not that big, but it was very fun because we at the end of our tour, we actually went on a slide that was in Simpson. That was a metal slide. It was very fun experience, and Simpson Wine Estate was the only estate that actually had a still Pinot Noir red, which we were all very excited to try because that was the first ever Pinot Noir red that we had in our life, and also in England.
And even in Simpsons, apart from the great slide that we went to, which was a great
and
sense
also
of
the Pinot Noir.
Oh, then that Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
I think one of the most important things we learned about was the difference between oaked and unoaked Chardonnay. So we had a variety of different wines, and the two ones that actually stood out to me was the same grape variety. The oaked is a Chardonnay, but one was unoaked. It was not aged in any barrels, and the other one was for I think 6 to 9 months around that time. And we got to actually have them side by side. So we had one glass with the oaked and unoaked, and they didn't tell us which one was which. We just had to smell it and taste it and understand. And you could clearly understand there was a huge difference between the oaked and the unoaked Chardonnay, and it showed the importance of aging a wine, or the importance of aging it in a barrel rather than in a stainless steel tank.
I mean, even if you don't smell it or taste it, you can just tell the difference by looking at the color.
Yeah,
the oaked one will be much darker, and
it was more golden.
Yes, and much more golden. Yes.
And the unoaked one tasted like pears, which
yes.
Not my favorite. But the other one had a nice smoky and very vanilla-y kind of a smell to it. It was amazing. And even after that, on the next day, when we went to Delhi's, That was it felt like we were in Italy almost. It was like on the top it was almost like a mountain high. We all went on a toy train, like how here in the hill stations you have one. So it's similar to that, on a toy train.
Because I think the toy train was necessary because we cannot cover how big that estate actually
it would have turned out to be a trip.
It is around 600 acres or something, so it's huge. And yeah, the toy train was necessary for us. We couldn't have walked that much.
Yeah, the train ride that took us like 5 minutes, it would have taken us 50 minutes if we had gone by walking. But when we went up, actually, they have a sparkling wine which is made with the same grapes that is used in Champagne. So, because in England they have the same soil and the same terroir as in Champagne region, so their sparkling wines are almost as good, if not for me personally, they were even better than the Champagne sparkling wines that you get in France. And we got to try that on the toy train while looking at the view. And the tour guide, she was showing us the different varieties. They have 17 different grape varieties, and they have the same grape variety in different areas of the vineyard itself. So that was really interesting to learn about, because the guide said that in case maybe in one area because it's such a large vineyard, one area may not have good weather, maybe something might happen to the crop, but they still have more of that same variety in other regions, in other areas of the vineyard, so they can still use that as backup.
Yeah, they do that just so that they do not lose out on any revenue.
Yeah.
Because end of the day, it's a 600-acre property, so they also have to pay the checks. That's why they make sure that whatever grapes they grow, at least they can get something out of it and produce it and sell it next year or the year after.
It was very sad and very bittersweet to have to end the wine part and leave England, because the next day we had a busy jam-packed day of going from Ashford to London, then from there to Scotland. So we had to say goodbye to Mr. Keith Edgar, and we were going to go and join Mr. Ron Scott, who was going to be our mentor for the Scottish distilleries and for the whiskies. So we took the train and from London, and the view was impeccable. There were so many different like valleys and hills and mountains, and going through the northern parts of England, it was beautiful. And that day itself, when we met Ron Sir, we went to the
Rose Street Brewery.
Yes, the Rose Street Brewery, where we had a lovely Scottish dinner. We had Scottish pies, we had haggis. And that day actually, Ron Sir gave us our first whiskey tasting.
That was the proper whiskey tasting that we did for the first time ever.
He gave us a little class, little basics, like a one-on-one class about what you should do, what you should look for when you're tasting a whiskey. And after that, we got to sleep, get some rest, because the next day was very busy. And the first distillery we visited was
Tullibardine. It was a beautiful distillery, because it was also the only distillery that we visited that had their own cooperage. So cooperage is it comes from the word coopers. Coopers are the ones who actually make the barrels. So in barrels in whiskey making is one of the most important steps in getting the most suitable whiskey that a distillery aims for. It was a beautiful distillery, and the whiskey tasting that we did there, it was phenomenal.
Underground,
yeah, it was
the barrels
underground,
and everything
yes.
were there, where they actually age their whiskies. Just a little ahead of that, it was like it almost looked like a secret door. You could go through that, and then there's this beautiful dimly lit bar, and the whiskey tasting was done there. And even they gave us a parting gift as well.
Yes, they did. But the most interesting thing about these distilleries is that actually how important the history is to them, because for a brief period, I think of 30 years or something, this distillery Tullibardine actually got mothballed. That means they stopped producing whiskey, and it's very interesting to know how they recovered from it, and then how they proceeded on and started making the whiskies again, and getting renowned as such a big famous Scottish distillery. And from Tullibardine we went on to Glenkinchie. Now, interestingly enough, before going to Glenkinchie, none of us had an idea that Glenkinchie is actually under Johnnie Walker. So Johnnie Walker purchased Glenkinchie, and apparently 90% of Glenkinchie's whiskey goes to Johnnie Walker for blending. They don't make their whiskies as single malts anymore. They do, but very less. But mainly it goes to Johnnie Walker for the blends.
Yeah, especially for the Gold Label Reserve, which is actually one of the whiskies we tasted, and this is the only lowland region distillery that we visited, because there are 5 different regions for Scottish distilleries, and we went to 2 of them in the Highlands region, but Glenkinchie was the only one in the Lowlands. And this was under, as he said, it was under the Johnny Walker, under that company. So we got to try 2 of the Glenkinchie, the single malts, and also their blended gold reserve, which these were nice, and it was really, I personally like the single malts more than the Johnny Walker, though many will disagree with me on that, but I really liked them, and it was really nice to see how Johnny Walker has turned just a small distillery into something to be one of the largest producers that are there. They make so many whiskies, they make such a great variety. It was really interesting to see. That day I think we just had a small little dinner that day, and we took some rest, because the next day it was the last day in Scotland, which was so sad. But that day we went for Edinburgh gin. Personally, I don't like gin, but that day completely changed my opinion on it, because the different varieties they had a rhubarb and ginger gin, they had a London dry gin, and they also had
Cannonball.
Yes, the Cannonball, which was spicy and fiery. It had like cinnamon and some black pepper to it, and I personally would lean more towards vodka if it's a this clear spirit, but gin has now become my new favorite. I think I told the guy that I kept thanking him for changing my opinion on gin and making me fall in love with it almost.
It was very interesting to also know that they had the gin liqueurs.
Yes.
So it's something that I've never heard of before. So they had gin liqueurs as well of different flavors. Like there were, I think, raspberry flavored gin liqueur. There was a ginger flavored gin liqueur.
And the one we tried was like mint and very herby.
Yes, it was a very herby. Because we had like our own separate tasting room. Where all of us were sitting, and we tried, I think, 5 more different gins or something, and it was very nice to actually see the entire distillation of gin happening, and it was just a very nice experience altogether. We didn't know when time passed, and we had to take a bus from London to Stansted Airport, and from there we boarded our flight back to Delhi. It was very bittersweet, leaving
so
after 10 days, meeting new friends and getting so many memories, good memories, and it was a little hard for us. I mean, you're not gonna lie.
Yeah, we may or may not have shed a few tears, been a little sad. We give our parting hugs, and now we still talk all the time. We have our group chats where we talk all the time, even with Kunal sir, who was the guide with us he was the HOD of
yes.
Pune campus, yes. So it was very interesting to meet all of them and get to know all of them, but it was so sad. We still talk, and we're like, I wish we could go again, but now the tour is over. We've brought back our memories and so many learnings, and I wish we could go again, and maybe sometime in the future we may go and reunite all of us together as a
hopefully.
group.
We have made a pact like that, so
yes,
yeah.
in 10 years time.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for listening, and I hope this was interesting for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
For a great hospitality career, call 98310 50,000.